In today's sometimes unstable security environment, it is expected that world powers play an involved role in global security. In the past, China has been criticized for its somewhat hands-off, non-interference approach to geopolitics. Yet is the US willing to see China play a greater role in international affairs, given their often different ideological standpoints? Today, China Matters puts this question and more to Professor Jin Tairong, Professor of International Affairs at Renmin University. China has long maintained a position of non-interference with regards to international relations and national sovereignty. But how can the country justify sitting back and doing nothing as certain regions struggle under conflict?
On some occasion, China did intervene. In the middle of 1990s, when the UN passed some resolution against the racial discrimination in South Africa, China joined.
Okay.
So it's conditionally joined.
Okay.
We need the permission from UN. And looking into the future, I think China will do more to contribute to public goods because China determined to establish itself as a responsible stakeholder. To some extent, China is still at the learning process. China determined to contribute more in international community, but as I said, we basically a developing country. We have our limits of power, and the government has to pay more attention to our own people. 1.4 billion population.
Right.
You know.
Looking now to the Middle East and Syria more specifically, the U.S. has made its position against President Assad and ISIS well known, whereas China seems to be sending sometimes mixed signals. Focusing more on ISIS, the world needs to put an end to the extremism of ISIS, and the U.S. is leading that charge. What is China doing?
You know, China at the very beginning opposed the intervention of West community in the internal affairs of some Arabic countries. Libya, Syria, etc. I have to say, if China and Russia stand more firm in the case of Libya, I think there will be less tragedy now. You know,
Okay.
You know, after Gaddafi, now Libya actually divided into two parts, right, run by two governments. And another suburb product is the crisis of immigrants. Every week,
Right.
thousand people rushing into the South Europe. That's a big burden for EU.
Sure.
You know, used to be Mr. Gaddafi stopped flowing of immigrants, you know, but now they get a chance. I think that's a big mistake. And Syria is another case. Without the support of the Gulf countries and Western Europe, there would be no civil war. You know, just some social unrest, demonstration, etc. But no civil war. But now, Syria totally apart, right? So I think the intervention of U.S. is a big mistake, and to some extent, ISIS is also a byproduct of the support of a Western country and Gulf countries. You know, everybody knows they still get money from Gulf countries. So it's very complicated, the IR game.
Right.
Yeah, because the sophisticated situation, I think it's better for China just to keep quiet.
So, if you're saying if the Western forces had not stepped in, the situation regarding ISIS would not be so severe in the Middle East.
I don't know the real story relating with ISIS, you know, because there are a lot of rumors. Who knows the real story? But the reality is that before ISIS turned to the Western countries, they killed the UK correspondent. Before that, actually Western countries, and especially Gulf countries, they encourage ISIS to fight with Shiite Muslim, right? They like to see the extreme of Sunni and the extreme of Shiite fighting each other. But when ISIS turned to the West, then become evil forces, right?
You say that you feel that Western powers, Western governments, should butt out of the Middle East and let it all sort itself out organically?
No, I think the Western country is still the dominant force in the world. They still owns the responsibility to remain stability in the main regions in the world, right? Including Middle East. I think the approach should be more sophisticated. If you feel unhappy about one government, just overthrow it by force. You know, democracy by gun. That's not a choice. You know, you should take a more sophisticated situation. If you overthrow one government and leads to the chaos, that's a mistake.
Right. If not America as a quote-unquote world police, then who? Or does the world even need a world police? And what role do you see China playing in the future?
You know, in many years, China initiate a so-called a multi-pluralism world. All the big powers and the middle powers should participate in. And I think in Chinese leaders' mind, G20 will be an ideal forum to manage the world. At the moment, G20 mainly focus on, you know, the cooperation of micro economic policy. But in the future, if G20 can play some role in security affairs, China would like to see that scenario.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. And thank you at home for joining us. We'll see you next time.
我觉得还不到那个程度吧。
需要不需要呗？
我觉得是需要的，但是这个公平性不好保证。
当然吧，我觉得这都是一个责任吧，就好像一个人在一个社会上他应该承担的责任是一样的。
我觉得不应该。
如果说在能力范围之内的，要更多的去参与，因为中国是一个负责任的大国。
应该是搞个联合起来，把正义的能量全部都集合起来。中国不会威胁其他国家的，我觉得中国会维护世界和平。
美国宣传这种言论肯定是有利于美国的，然后但是我觉得这种言论肯定是不成立的。
跟人一样，国家也是自私的。
我觉得没威胁人家。
和平相处吧。
总是在说，好像说两个人一直在吵架，然后就是应该打架的时候不去打，就是一直在这吵。
那和平相处呗，不就完了？
中美应该是一种那个互相合作互利，而不是不应该就是存在那种各种竞争、暗中的诋毁、诽谤之类的。